You're watching B2B Sales Essentials Best Practices. I'm your host, Hank Boyer, and today we're discussing the sales psychology of buyer resistance. Now, you don't have to be in sales very long to realize that many buyers resist. In fact, it's a natural phenomenon. They resist simply because they're not comfortable in moving ahead in the buying process. Something they've heard or something they think is causing them some concern. So, have you learned to recognize the signs of buyer resistance? Do you know how to respond appropriately? Well, here's where you start. You have to determine two things. First, what are the reasons driving the buyer's concern? And then secondly, what specific kind of resistance is being expressed by the buyer? Because different resistance is got different reasons. In fact, there's 6 different kinds of reasons why people resist moving ahead in the sale. Let's take a closer look at each one. Disinterest. You can take a look at Gwen's face and see that she's simply not interested in hearing a sales presentation at this point in time. Reason's pretty simple. Her current solution is all that she wants. She doesn't think that she needs to improve it, and she doesn't believe that there's anything wrong with her solution. She's simply not motivated to make a change. Well, what you've got to do with her is to dig beneath the surface and figure out what hidden needs are there that maybe she hasn't thought of. Once you get into those hidden needs and understand the size and scope of those needs, you're then able to make a compelling case why she should consider a change, and you have her interest. The second type of resistance here is disbelief. This is also very common, and it's rooted in doubt and skepticism that your solutions can do what you say they can do. Now, the reason why your customer or buyer is resisting here is based on their own bad experience. They have a real reason not to trust a solution, any solution. It's not you, it's the solution. And so the bad experience causes them to resist. What do? Well, the first thing you have to do is you have to be able to provide solid truth that gets them to trust the solution. But here's the point. You can't push him or try to overpower him with your proof. Instead, you have to use questions to lead him to persuade himself. That's right. He's got to persuade himself that your proof is credible. Third is misunderstanding. Misunderstandings occur because the buyer doesn't fully or correctly understand the complete situation. In other words, they're under a mistaken belief that something is true that's not true, or something's not true that is true, but it's a complete misunderstanding on their part. So the last thing you want to do is say, hey buddy, you're wrong, because nobody likes to be told that they're wrong. Instead, you're going to need to use questions and the particular type of misunderstanding that he's under to lead him to strengthen his belief in your solution. This is a type of resistance that, if handled correctly, will deepen the commitment to buy what you're proposing. Thirdly, shortcomings. Virtually every situation or every product or service has a shortcoming. Your buyer correctly understands the solution, but in this case, it's something about the solution, the lack or presence of something, that's an obstacle. Maybe it's a difficulty of making a change, or a feature, or a delivery, something along that line, but it's an obstacle for her, and right now, it's looming very large in the decision making. For her, you need to be able to show her how the benefits of your solution far outweigh the obstacle and the concerns. 5 is price. Virtually every salesperson has heard, hey, this costs too much, I'd like to think about it, gee, I can get it for less elsewhere. Price is really driven by 2 things. Either the buyer's not convinced that the value exceeds the price, or, more likely, he likes the idea, but wants to shop around to see if he can get it for less. This is pretty typical. Now, the last thing you want to do is cave to this price resistance and simply resort to reducing the price, because you're in fact going to validate that the price was too high, and you're training your buyer to constantly cut you down in price. Instead, what you want to do here is to lead your buyer to weigh all the benefits against the associated costs. In other words, to make a value decision based on total value, not simply on price or cost. Finally, let's talk about condition. Conditions are real. It's true, it's a valid reason for them not to move forward, and it's probably going to be expressed like, gee, we're at the end of our budget year, or we don't have any money right now to do this, or we have no authority at this to make this size purchase, that type of thing. It's real. And whatever you do, it's still going to continue to be real. So the way you want to deal with this type of resistance is not deal with it directly, but find a way, be creative in finding a way that will offset the condition, or at least lessens it so it's not that big an impediment. Now, if you like what you've heard in B2B Sales Essentials Best Practices today, you can learn many more best practices by visiting our website, BoyerManagement.com, where you're going to see award-winning programs like B2B Sales Essentials and Leading Through People. Again, BoyerManagement.com. For B2B Sales Essentials Best Practices, this is Hank Boyer saying, make it a great day. Bye-bye.